All right, is this working? How do we check if this is working?
Comment, it's working, we're live.
Comment yes if you can see my face. I just refreshed the stream and heard myself talking, so I think that's a good sign. Happy days. All right, hello everyone.
Good start.
Solid professional start from me. I don't believe you can expect anything less. Thank you, whoever's here, for being here. This is the first live stream I've ever done. I don't know, Steve, have you ever done anything like this for Scouted?
No, we have never done a live stream. I think we've been saying that we should do something like this probably for like 5 years and have never done it. So here we are.
Yes, and we're starting as we mean to go on by making it up. So quick housekeeping before we start, I guess. Why are we doing this? Because I thought it'd be fun and we thought it'd be nice. Some of my favorite memories of international tournaments are just, chatting with the boys after the games and getting the hot takes out there. And, tournaments are about community. So I thought if we can do that for other people, that'd be cool. When are they happening? We're going to put a full schedule out soon. We have got it all mapped out. We're going to be doing kind of bigger, more traditional podcast episodes in between some of the rounds. So once the group stages are finished, we're going to do some recorded podcasts, and we've got some really cool guests lined up for that. I'll keep those under wraps just in case anything changes, but pretty excited. Anything else?
Football. Lots of it.
Right, let's do the football go. Then. First of all, Ben Boschak, thank you so much for being here, my friend. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you guys as well?
I'm very well. I'm a little bit frazzled after that game, but yeah. Steve, doing well?
I am tired. It is 7 a.m. and I have been awake all night.
Yeah, I don't know how you do this, man. I've watched, how many games is this now? 10 games of football over the past few days or whatever. The 7 games, not even. And I'm struggling, man. It's rough, so I don't know how you do it. All right, let's just talk about England because, I don't know, not super convincing, I don't think. First half, pretty good stuff. Second half, wanted to die. It was really painful. I don't know, Stephen, top level thoughts?
Was the first half really that good either, or was Serbia just really bad? Like really bad?
I think for those first 15 minutes, I thought, damn, we're in for something here because we had so much of the ball. Didn't do a whole lot with it, but I don't know. You see the talent that England have. That when you have your foot on the ball, I just get excited because I'm like, anything could happen.
Serbia just rocked up with the most like negative midfield setup imaginable, and then they had a attacking setup that did not gel, have any flow whatsoever. Dusan Vlahovic playing in that role where he was kind of coming off the right. Half the time he was stuck in midfield, and he made a couple of terrible mistakes. There was one where he tried to pass it sideways through midfield, gave it away, and was kind of jogging back, defending, and England almost scored. So they were shooting themselves in the foot, Serbia, for the first like half an hour of that game. And they started to get a little bit of a foothold, but then they made changes at half time. And that second half, they were all over England for good chunks of it. They just didn't really have anyone up front that wanted to do too much. Vlahovic, when they took Mitrovic, I was surprised. I thought they were going to take Vlahovic off and leave Mitrovic there. And I thought that would have made a lot more sense. Vlahovic just couldn't get into the game at all. I think Guehi did a really nice job physically matching him and taking him out of the game. But I think after like Kostic had gone off, they started getting a bit more fun down that side. The midfield balance was much better with Ivan Ilic when he came onto the field. Tadic did all right when he came on. So I think there's a bit to like about it for Serbia once the changes were actually made and they adapted to the game. And on the other side of it for England, they didn't adapt over the course of the game and they started just getting camped in their own half for long stretches. So it's a really bizarre setup. I think the 11, you talk about how much talent there is, but I don't really think that the way the players were mapped out made sense. Like, I think if you're going to start Trent Alexander-Arnold in midfield. You need like outlet runners for him to be pinging balls to maximize what he's doing. So if he's, because his game isn't the pressure release valve. You need him like getting the ball with a bit of space and then getting his vision up and going bang. But on the left side, which should be his out ball nonstop, you have Foden there, who's basically playing inside, drifting towards a number 10 position the whole time. And Trippier's not getting down the wing enough, so he didn't have an out ball the whole game. So his position there was kind of redundant because they weren't getting any value out of what he brings to the table. So a couple of little things like that where the mesh of the team just wasn't there. And yeah, the second half was just dreadful.
You said a lot of things there that I want to circle back to, but first I want to get Ben. You were talking just before we went live about how you'd seen a bit of Serbia before in qualifying. So what do you make of this? Par for the course?
Yeah, I mean, this is what you expect from Serbia, really. They are the most direct team I think I've seen in international football. I mean, you can't blame them. When you got Vlahovic and Mitrovic, you kind of have to play to their strengths and you got to go direct. So I think it made sense for them to go this way. I would have liked to have seen England, I think, go a little bit more direct as well. For example, I think bit Stephen mentioned about Trent. I would have loved to have seen Gordon come on for a little bit of the game, utilize his pace and stuff like that. Because I think we saw towards the end when Bowen came on, he was a little bit fresher than Saka, bit of burst of pace, and Harry Kane almost scored England's second as well. So I don't think Foden had the greatest of games, and I think it would have been nice to maybe see Gordon come on and see what he could have done, because I think there were sort of gaps to exploit for England, especially towards the end when Serbia did sort of push forward a little bit. And I think it was a bit of a missed opportunity for Southgate's side, but I think like at the end of the day, it's 3 points. It's a win in the first game of the tournament. You kind of take it really. Like you can't really ask for anything more. I think for England anyway, you wanted to get the 3 points. You wanted to get a good result, and I think you got that. And now it's just about maintaining that sort of run, because I think there were encouraging bits from the performance. I think defensively, England did quite well, which I had some question marks over, actually. I wasn't really sure about whether Trent's going to be, how he's going to do defensively in that midfield, but I think he stood up to challenges that he had to face, especially the sort of physical challenges that Serbia put up against him. And I think Guehi had a really good game as well. I think, like you mentioned, Steve, like he really sort of handled Vlahovic's physical game. And overall, I think there's a lot of positives to take from the game. It's not perfect, but there's plenty of positives to take.
I want to jump in and talk about Mark Gay, because he's come up a couple of times now. He was definitely like that left side of England's defence, or the entire left side, I think, including Phil Foden, was like the question mark coming into the game. And I think like there wasn't a whole lot of fluent, most of England's play went down the right hand side, but Mark Gay, I thought, was like pretty fantastic. I thought he was asked to do quite a lot of stuff with like stepping into midfield, playing passes through the lines, trying to find Jude. And I thought he did it really. He looked very comfortable. Like you couldn't have told me this was like his first, major start for England in a competitive international tournament. And obviously, I think coming in there were some question marks about like how good he is in the air, because he's not huge, is he? And how much we would miss from Maguire not being there. And especially I was terrified coming up against Mitrovic and Vlahovic, big boys. But like he coped with it fine, I think, for the most part. Can we talk, Steve, can you talk a little bit about Vlahovic? Because last time I spoke to you, he was kind of in like March or whatever. He was kind of on like this crazy hot streak. I remember he scored that screamer free kick. So what is his like back end of the season been like? Like what kind of form has he brought into this tournament?
Just like Juventus basically from kind of like mid-February onwards.
Fell
Not
off a cliff.
great.
Right.
Yeah, it's a bit of an enigma for me because some like the highlight reel stuff is so good, but for big chunks of games, he can just look really, really bad. But I kind of feel sorry for him in this game. Like he's not playing. Like he plays his game as a sole number 9, and he's not the technical kind of player to shift off onto, an off the striker role. And what are you asking him to do at that point? He's not a creative player. He's not a big dribbler or carrier. He's a transition, get in behind the defense kind of number 9, or a kind of he's actually become a decent box presence heading target. But he really wasn't put into a position to do any of that stuff. The only thing he kind of showed was a bit of the ball striking that he can do when he hit that one from range towards the end of the game. But he's just the setup. I don't know how you can get away with playing Milinkovic, Savic, Mitrovic, and Vlahovic all at the same time, because they just all want to occupy the same spaces. Milinkovic, Savic wants to kind of do the Bellingham thing and attack the box from deep, and then Mitrovic and Vlahovic all want to be vying to be like the guys, the number 9. So it's a bit of a trying to fit a square peg through a round hole. And I guess that's the whole international football thing. And England are going through this exact thing on their side of trying to fit their most talented players into the system that works best to put all of them on the pitch together. But maybe sometimes you just can't do that.
Serbia dropped Tadic for this game, which I don't know anything about the Serbian national team, but that seemed like a surprise.
I think that was just for wanting to play conservative and keeping things tight at the back more so than necessarily dropping Tadic because he's not good. Or,
I mean, if you watch like the second half when he came on, you could argue they were much better, especially on the ball. Like he gives them something extra, which, like you mentioned, Stephen, like they don't really have when you have 3 very similar type of players up front there.
And the other thing as well is like all these, just before you move on, all these creative types of midfielders so far this tournament, they've all had so much space to do whatever they want. Earlier in the day, we saw for most of that game, Christian Eriksen running around and doing whatever he wanted. These like older players that in the top 5 leagues these days maybe don't look so good because they don't have the the physical prowess anymore to really mix it. As soon as you get to these tournaments and you drop like 10% of the physical intensity, all of a sudden everything that they do on ball is amplified and they look like world beaters again. So I think there's a little bit in that as well, that just the pace of these tournaments is a little bit less, and these older guys with immense on ball quality can still have so much value.
You spoke earlier about Trent not having like a left-sided out ball. And I was honestly, when Conor Gallagher was the first sub and Anthony Gordon's not even warming up, I was quite upset because I just thought like he would eat that left-hand side. And I was kind of surprised that Trent, like, what did we make of Trent in midfield, I guess? Because that was the big, one of the many talking points before the game. And like Steve, we'd been talking a bit in the group chat before about how, like you were mentioning, there's been so much in space and time in midfield for a lot of these like truly great passes to kind of just run games. We saw in the opening weekend with Toni Kroos, and then Brea did it very well for Italy, Christian Eriksen, etc., etc. And I think it was Jake that said he would expect Trent to kind of have the space and time to kind of do whatever he wanted, but he didn't have anyone to aim passes at, I guess. So I don't know if you have any more thoughts on like how well he did, or whether like this is something that England are going to persist with.
Yeah, the Gordon thing is also strange because on that wing as well, you have Andrija Zivkovic, who's he's a right winger. He's not really a right wing back kind of player. He's small. You saw Bellingham dunk on him for the header for the goal. I feel like that would have been a very favourable matchup for someone like Gordon to test him going back the other way and try and make him accountable. But yeah, if you don't have anything for Trent to pass to, The thing that I thought was also strange was Bellingham probably played a little bit deeper than I thought he was going to. And a lot of the time it was Trent, especially defensively, pushing as the most advanced midfielder to apply pressure. So a lot of the time when Trent, was on the ball and raised his vision to find a target, Bellingham was kind of like level with him on the pitch, or maybe only a little bit further forward. And then, as I was saying before, when England were getting camped in their own half, it's not like you can give it to Trent and he's the secure receiver of the ball that's going to evade pressure. That's not really his game. So you lose a little bit there in that sense when you could have someone like maybe a Mainu or a
Adam Wharton.
Wharton, whatever, who that's more of their game, is receiving the ball, evading pressure, and then being able to play out. So yeah, I guess if it's the setup that he wants ahead of the ball with Foden and Bellingham and Saka and Kane in that kind of tactical system, then I don't know if there is really a fit for Trent as the midfielder in that lineup, and you probably have to then either force him back to right back, which I still think they probably should do, or you just got to take him out and put someone else in there who complements the other players a bit better.
Ben, you're the Liverpool guy. This hasn't been tried much, I guess, under Jurgen Klopp. I think it's been done on occasion, right? Like a couple of times Trent's wandered into midfield, but he always strikes me as a guy who's unreal when he's like facing play and he has the picture of the game in front of him. He can just open it wherever he wants. But like with England today, like he was being asked to play like bounce passes into midfield, and like he had his back to play so often, and I thought he looked really uncomfortable when like there was a moment in the first half, I think, where he got the ball like that and someone nicked it off him. So I don't know, how do you think England should persist with this, or like is this failed experiment done?
I mean, I thought he did okay, and I think there is potential there. We've seen him do really well in that position for England, but I do think like in this system, you're going to get far more out of him at right back. If we're going back to like Pete, sort of Alexander-Arnold, for me, it's his seasons when he wasn't inverting at Liverpool, when he was just putting crosses in and really sort of putting those progressive passes in, penetrating in behind the defences. And I think in this tournament, there's going to be a lot of opportunities like that. So for me, I think you're almost getting more out of him if he plays over Walker at right back, because he can put those deliveries and put those crosses into Kane. And that's how England really threatened today. If you look at England's goal, the bar that Kane hit, they all came from those sort of crosses. So I think you get more out of him at right back. And I think his defensive qualities there, the reason I think he looks kind of exposed at right back at Liverpool is because a lot of the times he doesn't get the help that he needs in Liverpool's sort of high press from the midfielders. So a lot of the times in defensive situations, he's isolated against two opposition players, and obviously it's sort of easy to play through him then. But in this England system, like he'll get the protection that he needs to sort of thrive as a right back. I don't think I've seen him struggle as a right back for England ever really when he's come on. I think defensively he's always done okay. He hasn't been tested a lot at right back because he's been playing mostly as a midfielder over the last sort of year and a half now on the Southgate. But I still think the next two games for England are not the most difficult. I don't think Denmark are the Denmark that they were 3 years ago. And I think Slovenia as well represents a different sort of challenge. And I think in those games, having Trent Alexander-Arnold's deliveries sort of almost going route one might actually benefit Southgate. And I think while I liked Guehi, I thought he did really well. I wasn't convinced by Stones. I think sometimes Serbia got in behind him, and I think his lack of speed could be a concern against better opposition. So I would almost be tempted to maybe play Walker there as a centre back in these games, just because, especially like Slovenia, the speed of Sesko coming up against Stones, I think that could be a problem for England. So I don't know. I think for me, it just depends on what Southgate wants. If he wants to continue playing Foden on the left, Saka on the right, and Kane in the middle, I don't really see much sense in Alexander-Arnold playing in midfield because you're not getting the best out of him.
That is a huge shout, brother. Dropping John Stones, but I see your point. So if we're talking like Southgate's not going to change anything because he doesn't change anything during games, so I don't think he's going to do anything in the next 3 days. Steve, how would you fix whatever this was like moving forward?
Well, you kind of got
what do you think
you got
changes?
2 free hits really, because you kind of only need a point, and you go through. So he's got a bit of flexibility. He always has this to fall back on, but it's maybe not the greatest thing to be able to. But yeah, I don't know. You've had the 2 friendlies and then this game, and I still think he's not really that close to working out exactly what it is that he wants in the team. I think he just needs a little bit of speed on the ball, and that's why someone like a Gordon could change the dynamic immensely, because everything can be a little bit one pace. I think with Foden in the out on the left. I don't know. I'm a bit biased, but I would love to see Adam Wharton get some minutes because I think he is just a different, gives you a different look. But even would have been interesting to see if Mainu came on a little bit earlier in this game, what he could have potentially done to help England, get the foothold back. I still think probably the most likely is that he'll go back to Gallagher in midfield, and it would kind of just be okay, but not really that exciting. So yeah, I don't know. It's a little bit of a tricky one, but I think he's pigeonholed himself into just playing Foden, Saka, Bellingham, and Kane. And I think when you lock in those 4 from an attacking sense, what you do behind that, I don't know if it's going to be change things up too much. Apart from playing Trent at right back, I think that is the only lever that you would pull behind the front 4 that would make a massive difference in your attacking output.
Trent at right back. Luke Shaw is going to come back at some point, we hope. You could have Declan come across when Trent wants to roam a little bit. Adam Wharton in there as an actual central midfielder. And then the rest could say, Anthony Gordon instead of Phil Foden. I'm sick of Phil Foden on the left, sorry. And it's not just because everyone on Twitter is Bukayo Saka's not as good as... Did you watch this game, man? Bukayo Saka was... In fact, we haven't even mentioned his name.
Although, I have to say, Saka had Pavlovic on skates early, but then I think Pavlovic came into the game pretty well.
He did.
Second half, or the end of the first half into the second half. And I think him starting to win a couple of those duels against Saka was pretty important for Serbia getting back into the game. So there's a little bit of a watch on that. I think Saka definitely ran out of legs a little bit and probably was subbed at the right time.
Yeah, and obviously he was struggling for fitness a bit at the end of at the end of the season. All right. Anything else we want to say about England? How do you see this group shaping up? I guess would be the last thing to touch on.
I think it's sort of looking like one of those groups where the 3rd place team has a very good chance of going through. Just because of the draw that happened. I think most of the time when there is a draw in one of the groups, those teams are more likely to go through. So I think it's very evenly sort of balanced between the 3 other sides, and England, I think, will sort of run away with it. And yeah, that's kind of how I see it. I think England are in a good spot. I think it was always a very favourable sort of draw. I don't think there's teams in there who can sort of really, really threaten England. And I think it's one of those that 5 points might be enough to sort of win you the group. But 6 definitely.
Yeah, and the draw in the other game kind of opens it up for both of those teams now. Just get one win and you'll go through as well. So definitely. As soon as you see a draw, you're like, okay, there's a team in this group that could definitely go through as the best third place team, just because. But once you get that 4 points, you're, I think, just about certain to go through on the history of this tournament.
We're on day 3 now, boys, and we were going to get together and have a chat on Sunday night after the opening ceremony and game, but Stephen couldn't brave the whatever time it finished for you, 7 a.m. or whatever, understandably. So I don't want to spend too much time, digging into all of the games that we've watched over the past couple of days, but I want to give you both a chance to talk about your teams. So Ben, obviously a bit of a disappointing one for you. Hungary fell to Switzerland. What was the score in the end?
3-1.
3-1. Probably one of my favorite moments of the tournament so far. I hate to say it, but like Breland Bolo's goal when he shrugged off his leg brace to score. I was like, what beautiful visual metaphor for coming back from injury to do that. I thought that was sick. But yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about kind of what went wrong, or kind of what were the hopes? I feel like the hopes were pretty high for Hungary coming into this, right? Is that fair? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I myself was a little bit cautious because I think there have been signs over the last 6 months of Hungary not being great. Went, I think, 2-0 down away to Lithuania back in November, and really struggled through that game. And I think there was the defeat to Ireland earlier this month, which was, I think, Ireland's only win other than the one against Gibraltar over the last sort of 12 or 24 months or something crazy like that. So I think there was a lot of times and signs of this result coming. And if you look at Switzerland's squad, there's a lot of experienced players in there, a lot of strong sort of physically and technically gifted players as well. There's so many good technical players in that team. Even Mbolo, I would put there, he's really good, and I think underrated in his sort of technical ability. So, I kind of expected, I think, them to beat Hungary, but I think the performance overall in the first half was disappointing. I don't think Hungary even showed a sort of 1% of what they are, how good they are. Pretty much just let Switzerland have the ball, and Switzerland was sort of enjoyed that, really. I think in this tournament so far, most of the games, I feel like when you let the other team have the ball, it causes problems, like we've seen with Germany sort of controlling the ball and scoring a lot of goals against Scotland. It was the same with Switzerland. I think the only exception is really the Spain-Croatia game, where Croatia sort of, I think, had more possession. It was a very balanced game. I think the scoreline doesn't really reflect that, but Croatia definitely had a lot of chances in that one. And with Hungary, I think now it becomes really difficult to get out of the group. You're relying on a miracle draw against Germany and a win against Scotland, because I don't think this is one of the groups where I don't think the third place team will go through. I think if you look at it, both two teams have now lost by 2 goals and 4 goals. So I think it's really unlikely that the third place team goes through. I think unless Hungary can get a draw against Germany, I don't see it.
And you got Germany next, right? Is it Wednesday?
Yeah, that's correct.
Jesus. Yeah, that's going to be a tough one. That game, again, the Switzerland game, again, same kind of quarterback thing we're talking about. Granit Xhaka, amazing, slicing through. So that's really becoming a theme. And then Steve, last night, Italy, a little bit of a scare there in the opening 20 seconds. But what were the vibe, what were you expecting from the team? I think you said that you were pleasantly surprised, right?
Yeah, well, I didn't even really know what the lineup was going to be. I thought Spalletti's had a little bit of a thing with Scamacca where he's not been happy with him in the past. So I wasn't sure whether he was going to start him or start Retegi up front, which I wouldn't have been happy with because Scamacca is just clearly a much better player. And then the other surprise was bringing in Riccardo Calafiori straight into the team. Hadn't even played for Italy until earlier this month and straight into it. And it's really amazing. I didn't think that he would try a duo. Well, first I thought he might try a 3 at the back, and then he kind of rolls up with this 4 back that kind of morphs into a 3 and back and forth. But I didn't think that he would put Bastoni and Calafiori in the same team together. I think they're just, possibly a little bit too similar. They both like to do the same things. They both like to play on the left side, but it worked really well. And then if you put those two together, you probably got the best technical centre back pairing in the whole tournament, which is a bizarre thing when you think of the history of Italian defenders. Don't necessarily think the most technical guys. You're just thinking about some proper bruisers like Chiellini. But yeah, those two together is the technical ceiling of the team goes to another level because both of them can pass, both of them can carry and move out of defense with the ball. We've seen with Inter, Bastoni ends up on the left wing half the time. Thiago Motta had this thing with Calafiori pushing him into midfield a lot this season. So both of them are super, super comfortable with the ball. And I just think after the big mistake from Di Marco, the throw-in that led to the opener for Albania, I think instead of going to the wall, they regrouped really well, straight away stamped their authority on the game. We're keeping the ball well. We're getting the outlet runners, getting Chiesa into the game. And then everything started to open up. Barella was constantly finding the pass out to the right-hand side, and they were just finding spaces. Probably could have scored another goal or two, but I think for most of the game, they were just in complete control, which, the 2-1 scoreline doesn't necessarily make it sound like you were dominating the game. But I think for the large majority, they were in total control and didn't really face too much of a threat going the other way. So I was very happy with that. Needed to get a win on the board because obviously 2 very tough games that'll be coming now against Croatia and Spain. But at least now you go into those probably only needing a draw from one of them, and you should have enough to go through to the next round. So yeah, I think that this team doesn't maybe have the pound for pound talent that maybe England or France have, but I think they're really well coached, and they have a system that seems to get the most out of the talent that they have available. That Barella-Jorginho partnership has a good mix about it. Scamacca is doing his job perfectly. The defense is super solid, so not too much to complain about.
They also have a 31-year-old Stefan El Shawari on the bench. I was very disappointed we didn't get to see what the hell has he been doing. Where is he? And how is he only 31?
He is at Roma, if I'm not.
He's still at Roma.
Blanking. Right. He's just bounced around everywhere. He was Milan, Roma.
Incredible. Disappointed by the lack of mohawk, though, I have to say. I thought that was weak from him. Although a 31-year-old man with that haircut, maybe it was time.
Bridge too far.
I love all the little stories that come out of international tournaments when a wide audience suddenly connects with something that specialists have known the whole year. And I think I've really enjoyed watching everyone fall in love with Calafiori, and then a lot of the Serie A experts being like, "Yeah, we've been known, bro." So
yeah, well,
they weren't.
I'd say the big raps started coming for him maybe around kind of January-ish, when it kind of dawned on everyone that Bologna looked like they were going to be a pretty strong team, at least in Serie A circles. And then it all kind of ramped up big time in May. He scored 2 against Juve, and then you started getting all the rumors. Then it started with the Juventus transfer rumors that started popping up. And then I think maybe 2-ish weeks ago, there was, of course, another Chelsea rumor that, Chelsea have been linked with every player on the face of the earth at this point. And I think that's when it started really going to overdrive. And then he got called up to the Italy squad and then, straight into the team for this first game against Albania. And now it's just off the charts. And then you have your full Twitter feed is just photos of him before the game in his track jacket with just Calafiori,
looking
aura,
like Maldini.
aura,
Yeah.
headband, aura. And so now it's now it's just game over. We're going to be hearing about him nonstop for the rest of the tournament. And hopefully it's a long tournament as well for Italy. So
you also have the antithesis of that is Hungary's number 9, who is pretty much exactly the opposite of that. Looks like an absolute Viking, but I think he has some aura as well. When he comes on, he's got
the lumberjack vibes.
Yeah, exactly. And I think he was asked about it because he was going viral as well on Twitter and stuff, and he was asked about it, I think today in the press conference, and he just said basically just said, "This is how I was born. It's my genetics. I'm just big bone. Like I can't really help it." And
he was born that big. Jesus.
Well, yeah, he did mention about, okay, maybe not when I was born, but it's just my genetics. But
all the stuff I saw was people being complimentary that the big boy number 9 is back, and they were excited.
Yeah, that's another great
kind
of theme from this tournament. Fulkrug opening day. Who else have we got?
Weghorst
today. That fella, size of a mountain. There was one other as well that I think people French Schmacker in there, but he's like he's cultured. Love it. Love the big target men.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting. All the older target men, like they're all these like big box dominators like Fulkrug and Weghorst. And then you got like the new gen number 9s like Sheshko, Hoyland, those types that are more like the outlet transition runners. So you got this like interesting distinction between what used to be the pinnacle of number 9 play and what is now the pinnacle of number 9 play, and they're two very, very different types of player. So I think that's an interesting. The Weghorst one is a good one too, because Netherlands, when he came on, he completely changed that game, just giving them a total box presence. So, these guys that sometimes at club level you think, not that good, blah, blah, blah. International ball is just like a different game. And sometimes you can have these guys that rock up every international tournament and they've done nothing at club level for 2-3 years. And then they just go crazy. And I think someone like Weghorst, because the Dutch team was humming and they just needed someone in the box that was going to be a consistent threat. Depay kind of goes wandering for large parts of a game, and you can't really bank on him in the big moments to deliver. Whereas Weghorst has now shown in a couple of international tournaments that he can be quite the clutch performer.
Yeah, sometimes in internationals, I think it is as simple as get all your really good players to just aim at something. Although Harry Kane didn't do much box dominating tonight, did he?
Oh, but he had 3 defenders that were pleasantly occupied by his presence. I think
bullying him.
I think he did his role, even though his role today was a bit different to what is normally expected.
Yeah. Right, boys, we're closing in on 11:15. So I just want to whip through a couple of things before we call it. This is scouted, so I can't fail to ask, are there any young players, do you think, that have impressed so far? Off the top of your head?
Lamine Yamal, like you can't.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the obvious one. Like he was brilliant, and I think it's kind of crazy because I remember watching him live in Hungary at the under-17 Euros, like literally like a year ago, and I mean I knew he was going to be good. Like he'd already made his debut for Barcelona, but I don't think I could have seen him playing at the senior Euros in a year's time and dominating in the way he did. I think Spain are kind of like a team to watch. Him, and obviously they got Williams on the other side. Like it's a really interesting team, completely different to what the Spanish teams of the past that we've been used to. But I think it's the kind of team that in a tournament football could actually do really well. So I'm excited to see more of them. But I think like that's probably an obvious answer in terms of youngsters standing out.
It's when they bought like Yamal had just run them Croatia ragged for 70 minutes, and then they brought on like Ferran Torres and Dani Olmo and stuff, and it's like Jesus Christ, it just keeps coming. Jeremy Frimpong as well, kind of similar position, came off the bench today, and was pretty instrumental in kind of like, I don't know, again, just aiming balls at Vegor's head. Steve, any standouts for you so far?
Yeah, I was very surprised to see Kasper Urbanski start for Poland today. And he is one that I kind of was watching at the under-19 Euros last year. And then he was kind of a bit part player for Bologna this season, but really like his game. I think he played 55, 60 minutes, but he's a clean technique. And he's helped Poland get out of some interesting scenarios in the final third, able to retain possession in some good areas. So when Poland were really struggling in that first half, I think he was a bit of a bright light in actually helping them to advance the ball up the field while they were getting a Dutch onslaught at the other end. Outside of that, I can't think of too many other.
I think Sesko.
Yeah.
Was pretty good.
Sesko
He was all right, but I
hitting
think
the
he
post
just
was
struggled to get into the game in the penalty box, and every chance fell for his teammate who fluffed everything. His chances were obviously all outside the box, and boy, he can hit it when he gets a half a meter of space to just whack it on either foot as well. But yeah, I think he just struggled to. He was getting involved a bit in the in-between game, but never really was able to get on something meaningful in the box. But they didn't really get into the game until the last 25 minutes or so. So I guess that's understandable.
I think Musiala as well made a sort of statement.
Yeah.
Sort of. I think his performance, if he plays like that, probably a good case if Germany win it to be the player of the
Wirtz as well. Him and Wirtz, like both of them out in transition, just like one going one way, one going the other. You can't track all of those guys at once, and then 2 seconds later, it's in the back of the net.
It's really nice to see these sort of guys like who we watch from like the under-17 Euros and stuff. But obviously Musiala, and I'd put Bellingham in this as well. Like just over the last few years, their growth and their development has been insane, and now they're stepping up for their countries and doing really well at the Euros. So it's really nice to see them do well, and hopefully that continues as well, because they're all still really young as well. You forget that, but they're only 20, 21 years old.
And another guy that you've had your eye on, Ben, is Turkish striker Semih Kılıçsoy, and I know this because we spoke about him last week, and we've got an edition of the shortlist dropping. I think we're going to do it on Tuesday, because I think that's when Turkey play. So I believe he's an 18-year-old described as the Turkish Aguero, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
So unlikely to start, but if people want to know more, go and subscribe to Scouted Notebook. I think we're on about 582 subscribers at the moment, so the summer of Scouted is in full swing. Before we go, guys, I just want to get one last thing from you both, and that is a favorite moment so far. So I said the Brill and Bolo thing, but I actually have another one, which was scrolling on Twitter to see a tweet that said, big tournament for Ryan Porteous if he I think if he plays well, he could get a big move this summer. 20 minutes later, he plants 16 studs on Ilkay Gundogan's shin. Great moment. That's what I live for. Ben, favorite moment?
I mean, it's going to be ironic coming from a Hungarian, but I think the fact that Kwadwo Dua came on, I think he lived actually a little bit of his life in England as well. He kind of was, nobody really expected him to start, like gets the start, gets the nod for Switzerland. He's the striker who was playing in the Bulgarian league, and scores Switzerland's opening goal of the tournament. I think that's a really nice story, and it was a really well taken goal. I don't know how the lino flagged it for offside initially, because there's no way. Like, even watching it from the TV, I was like, he's on. Like, that's going to be given. It was a great run. So
Thank
for
God
me,
for
that's
VAR.
yeah. Thank God for VAR in that situation, because that's a really nice moment. And I think for me, that's probably like the best sort of narrative in the tournament so far.
Stevie?
I guess it's kind of hard to go past Christian Eriksen. I was watching the Optus coverage, and they actually have Thomas Sorensen on, because he played for Melbourne City, and I think he lives down here permanently now. And he was talking about some of his memories. He used to bunk with Christian Eriksen. I think he said at the 2010 World Cup when Eriksen was first coming to the team. So it brought a nice little personal touch. And he was actually in the studio doing work for Optus when the incident happened at the last Euro. So it kind of all came full circle, and it was nice to first watch that goal and then see his reaction and him talking about it at halftime. So probably put that one, even though it's probably one that everyone will go for, but it doesn't make it any less nice.
Yeah, well, yes. Well, it was a lovely moment. And this has been a lovely moment with you boys. Thank you so much for being with me. These streams will obviously get a bit smoother as we grow in confidence. We're figuring stuff out as we go along. I think Stephen and Ben, actually, we'll be back on Thursday to talk about, it's going to be a spicy one, Spain, Italy, correct? So very much excited about that. I can't wait to see Stephen's beaming face after the Azzurri emerge victorious from that. Judging by Spain's last game, it's going to be a wild one. So I look forward to that. I look forward to people coming and reading what we've got up on the notebook this week. It's going to be a good one. And I hope everyone is enjoying the tournament and continues to enjoy the tournament. Any final words, Ben Bochak?
Yeah, not from me. I think, just watch out for that profile on Killchoy, which is dropping soon. So keep an eye out for that.
Yes, if we've pronounced his name correctly.
Yeah, that's we have to
discuss in the in the piece. Stephen, sign off. Go to bed, my friend.
Yes, I will be going to bed. It is 8 a.m. and I am sleep deprived, as I will be for the next month.
All right.
Adios.
Looking forward to more football and more chats very shortly. Good night, everyone.
Ciao.
Bye.